Not exactly hidden. Because things just never stop with humans around. Morgarkin notes as he looks back towards the new forest physically, but only truly sees it by looking inward. Well, it makes sense if you think about it. Onyx states, and Morg gives her his full attention. Well, just think about it. They became the dominant species on a world in the way that Tret or Alfar did. But unlike Trets or Alfar, they did it without axiom. No throwing fire or hurling boulders one-handed. They have no fire, they have no claws, their teeth are barely big enough to chew their food, and other apes outmuscle them easily. So how does such a race become the lord of all it surveys? Intelligence and cooperation. Morgarkin says after a moment. Audacity. They casually do things others don't even consider, Magi says. Exactly, Onyx explains. I had to look this up and confirm it. But to this very day, in the more primitive parts of their homeworld, some hunters act more like scavengers by walking right up to massive predators that have just downed a fresh kill, cut off a haunch, and then walk away as casual as can be. Stealing food from the mouth of a predator that would likely kill them if it charged, and even take a hefty chunk out of me should I fight one. That explains a lot, Morgarkin states. How do humans connect to the woods so easily? They dare. They dare to open up in ways that take utter desperation or years of discipline. Part of him feels like this is already something he knew, just bubbling underneath. And to be honest, that makes even more sense. Audacity and madness are closely tied together, so being able to push down audacity before it becomes madness is extremely valuable. So, what are the Chainbreakers like? What kind of missions and fun do you get to have as bounty hunters? Magi asks. Oh, all sorts, young lady. These men seem to live in 3 states: serious mission state, planning and scheming state, and troublemaker state, which tends to sneak into the other 2 states as well as being a state of its own. Onyx states, it's a lot of fun. Everything we do is either really well planned or more like a small party just happening. They're a short race without a lot of hardness to them, but when they need to go hard, they're tougher than Hypercrete, Jade says before chuckling. So, do you remember your birth father or, I'm not sure how to ask about your situation. I know Onyx here is your mother, but what do you think of air farce? Magi asks, and Jade just gives her a smile. There's a bit of sadness in it, but it's mostly cheerful. Her presence is churning, though. Whatever the situation is, it's complicated. I'm adopted, Jade admits. I don't know who I was before. I can get some flashes, but she shakes her head. It hasn't been good for anything but a bit of power armor repair know-how. But for a Canador, having knowledge and understanding of power armor maintenance does not narrow things down. Jade trails off and looks outside into the warm day. They're in the northern hemisphere now and are heading to the comfortable beachfront islands and resort cities that span from island to island with both walkways and portals connecting the parts together. I was an organ farm, trapped in an endless regenerating coma for years at least, as parts of me were torn out to provide body parts for people who refused to enter a healing coma of their own. The criminals who held me didn't bother to use a retaining band, so whoever I was, it's gone. I've tried to bring it back, but it's just gone. My life starts in the Chainbreaker med bay, on the day I was first awoken and adopted. As far as I know, my birthplace is a ship in a berth of a pirate station. My trail before that begins and ends in a badly maintained butcher room and medical bay combination on Vuxa 5. That's terrible, Magi states. I'm pretty sure I have it better than Scaly. Poor guy's really been through it, Jade remarks. He's pretty much bounced back at this point. His little plan to grab a few bounties of his own is both simple and hilarious. Onyx remarks. I mean, yes, okay. Using himself and his baby face as pedophile bait with a number of cloaked drones and J3 on Overwatch with a sniper rifle is good, but Jade trails off. I feel kind of guilty for not doing more. I'm a Canador. I'm stronger and I don't have prosthetics. I don't even remember my pain and he can't forget his... What happened to him? Who is Scaly? Magi asks. Scaly is Slithern's nickname. He's a Greater Plains Nagasha that was adopted by Captain Gregory Schimt and Cindy. Captain Schmidt, or Pukey, was captured by the Chaining, a powerful slaver ship that then used him as a gambling piece on a big casino that held Cindy in debt serfdom. He broke out and started a rampage that cost him an eye and an arm, but Cindy had been making a series of prosthetics on the sly she intended to sell high to pay off her debts. She instead installed them onto him, and he burnt down the casino with her help. He then attacked the Chaining and led a slave revolt that slaughtered the former crew. Slithern was found in an officer's pleasure chamber, near death, and brutally mutilated. The woman had cannibalistic tendencies and he was down chunks of his tail, all his fingers and nearly half his face and an eye. What kind of monster does such a thing? Why? Magi asks, and there's a deep sigh from Onyx. The galaxy is a gigantic place filled with people of great potential, my dear. But not all great things are wonderful. Some are terrible, utterly and completely terrible, Onyx says. When people use their potential to be monsters, that's when you need people like me. That's when someone else has to stand up and stand against it. Guards and police keep the peace. Armies move the borders of galaxies and defend nations. But hunters, we seek out the terrible few and tear them down. For all that Serbo is a world with its own problems, it's a very peaceful place. Martial strength all over the place makes a real monster or super criminal into something rare and noticeable. We're strong and that's left us brittle in some ways. I mean, look at me. On another world without the forest, I may very well have become some kind of monster. Instead, I'm a minor celebrity and an off-the-books asset to the crown. Morgarcone states. Things can get pretty desperate and dirty close to the ground when you're short on money. I suppose. I'd like to meet this Slithern. Can you take us to the same island he's working on? I can spread some spores near there and act as backup if he has need of it. Morgarcone offers, and Onyx shifts the heading of the airvan after checking the planetary map on the dashboard. Sure, although he can be a little shy at times. He's only recently really come out of his shell, and this is one of the biggest moves he's made, Onyx says. He's cute, but not much for hugs, Jade notes. Considering what happened to him, he's downright cuddly. Onyx replies, I suppose it just... Jade begins before pausing and looking back as she hears something from Magi. The young Apuk is trying to hold back tears. What's wrong? It's just... I've run away from home because I couldn't stand being there anymore, and everyone else has suffered so much more. It's so selfish of me to want help in order to do all this. I don't deserve... She's cut off by Moore grabbing her around the mouth and stopping her from talking. Enough already. It's not about deserving help or who needs it more. It's about who needs it, period. You needed help, so you're being helped. It's that simple. But Magi begins as Morgarcone takes his hand away, and his finger is to her lips immediately after. It's not a big contest about who's had it worse. It's about how we can make things better, Onyx says. Besides, if you think it's a waiting game, then Scaly and Jade have both been helped. Scaly has healed so much he's starting to go on the offensive, and his prosthetics have been weaponized so that the next person to take a swipe at him is going to be the one losing fingers instead. Jade here is both my daughter and apprentice as a hunter, and that just leaves you now, doesn't it? I don't think it works like that, Magi says. Well, it's not a competition either, and anyone that makes it one is the person in the wrong, Onyx says. Here we are, a Larquin Island, a wonderful little getaway for office women from the nearest 50 sectors. Just smell that desperation and boredom. They descend to the small island far below, and it's a large mountain that started jolting out and cracked in half to become a sort of triangle shape. The tighter angle is very rocky, and the base is covered in sand with a jungle and resort holding up the middle of things. "Where's Scaly?" Morg Arkin asks, and Onyx taps at the screen. "He's in the northern part of the resort," she says, descending down, and there's a small flurry of messages she has to sort through and a few she has to tap through and clear away in order to get landing permission. It's quickly sorted out, and Jade points out as the long form of a Greater Plains Nagasha with a green and black tail is waiting for someone. "See those distortions? Those are cloaked combat drones that use only a tiny amount of axiom." "I can't see them," Magi says, with her face all but pressed up against the window, and Morg Arkin peers over her shoulder. There's a slight shudder as they hit a crosswind, and he has to dislodge his left horn from the roof before sitting down. "Are those splotches along his tail where he had chunks taken out?" "Yes, it's going to take years and years worth of shedding before he's rid of them." "Why doesn't he just go through a healing coma? Won't that bring back everything he lost and wipe it all away?" "Some people aren't eager for them, dearie," Onyx says as she sets down the air van in a parking lot not far away from where Scaly is. "Not everyone trusts them, and by the time he started opening up, he saw what happened to Jade, and that just made him back away. Not to mention his other mother is a big advocate for a full synthetic upgrade. So that's an option too," Jade says, opening the door. "That is possible," and Onyx begins before her eyes narrow and there's the sound of shouting. Morg shifts reality around him and teleports without the woods to take off at a sprint towards where Scaly is raising a stink. Onyx overtakes him in seconds and is closely followed by Jade. Both enormous women are on all fours and sprinting. Magi warps in front of him and then runs so that both he and her arrive at the same time to see a massive standoff between the younger Nagasha man with his hollow blades and drones, an older Nagasha woman with a pistol, a half-dozen Platin women in different police uniforms, and Onyx's massive laser rifle with Jade's plasma pistol. "Mr. Schmidt, did you just bait out a police sting?" Magi asks incredulously. "I think I did. I was going for a small bounty and got a lot more backup than expected." "No, The Desert Nagasha begins before pulling out a badge. "I'm Officer Trine. I was trying to track down a child trafficking ring and perhaps rescue a young Johnny. I didn't think I was stumbling into a counter-operation." Morg just starts chuckling to himself, and the situation starts to wind down as the officers are rolling their eyes, groaning in frustration or openly laughing at the silly thing that happened. Scaly brings out a communicator. "Hey J3, come on down. We ran into police." "You have more backup?" Officer Trine asks. "Yes, you didn't think I'd do this alone, would you?" "I'm shocked you're doing this at all," Officer Trine notes. "Right, well, if this is a bust, I'm heading back to the ship. This is fun and all, but there's already too many people for my liking and not enough catharsis with laser blasts and plasma spray." Scaly remarks as his holoblades deactivate and return to prosthetic fingers. He then thoroughly zips up his shirt and pulls up the hood to hide inside it. "Onyx, can you take me back to the chainbreaker, please?" "Go ahead," Morg says as Onyx looks to him. "I can get us both back to the bright forest in a blink." "Well, I was hoping you three could talk a little first, spend some time together, and maybe make some friends." "I like that idea. Let the youngins and kiddies have some fun while the big woman and me sort out the paperwork," J3 says as he jumps off a nearby roof and lands in an easy crouch. "Are you the father of this group?" Officer Trine asks, and J3 laughs out loud. "In all honesty, man, I've got even odds of being the youngest one here, and if I'm not, I'm guaranteed to be the second youngest. But it's not how many years you have, it's how full they are," he says as he walks up. "I'm Joshua Joseph Johnson III, codename J3. I work with the Chainbreakers bounty hunting team. Onyx here is a part of that team as well, and Slithern Schmidt and Jade Bravo are both trainees. Morg Arkin and Magi there are both friends. I'm willing to cooperate in order to lay out all this confusion straight. I appreciate that, Mr. Johnson. This sting took 2 weeks to set up and you seem to have spoiled it in just 2 minutes, Officer Treen says.